Ready for this deep dive? Today's topic or today's subject? I have some questions to ask or ask ourselves. To the beginning of the highest yoga empowerment, the Vajra master asked Vajra disciples and us, teacher asked us questions. Then we have to answer. So the Vajra master asked, who are you? What are you looking for? What do you seek? Who are you? That first question. And what do you want? What are you looking for? Then you have to answer. Then third one is what to do with it. Once you get that one, what you want, then what you do with it. The same thing. I want you to answer in the sense that there's no right answer or wrong answer. But if that answer is not sufficient for seeking further from now on, rest of the retreat, rest of the year, then I think why you are here, that's the thing. You just get what you want. If kids want a toy, then once kids get the toy, he want to play with it. No, if you just get it, in a sense, no point. What you want to do with it? Who are you? And what you want or what you are looking for? And what are you going to do with it? Actually, ask yourself, each of you, because quite important. It seems like an arbitrary beginning kind of chit-chat thing, but in terms of empowerment, already script, if Vajra Master asks, who are you? Then we said, I'm a fortunate one. Kersan, that's the name, fortunate one. Sometimes, Tibetan boy's name or girl's name, Kersan, that means fortunate one. Then what do you seek? I seek great bliss. That's another word for happiness. The most sublime expression of happiness, great bliss. Then what are you going to do with it? Then I said, I'm going to use that for sublime awakening. Yeah, fulfilling the commitment of sublime awakening. So that's the answer, scripted answer. But see, we all seek for happiness, right? Yeah, we know that. That's why you're here. If you are a teenager, maybe may not say that. I don't care about happiness. But deep down core of who and what we are looking for something called perhaps happiness. Then each of us has a different definitions, what happiness feels like or the means. But then we went through this journey of Ramnim. First scope, initial scope, second scope, and great scope. First scope, what was the goal or aim of the first scope? Good future rivers. We're not seeking for the happiness of just this one, but future rivers. We can continue to have this precious human life or higher rivers. That's the first scope. Then the second scope is seeking the happiness of freedom, complete liberation from samsara, the occurring, perpetuated suffering, where we are all circling around since the beginningless of time. That's the definition of the second scope, those who seek for second scope. Another was nirvana. Nirvana or freedom, liberation, complete liberation from samsara. Okay. At least if you have that aim of the second scope, you can stay. It's worthwhile to listen to the next journeys. We get into the last section of the Ramlim, kind of peak of the sutric path called Vipashyana. And now Mahamudra journey. This is the peak of Mahamudra journey. Up to now, we are really training the mind to come to really concentrate the mind, one-pointed focus, calming down. Those are open to anybody. Even non-Buddhist practitioners are good at doing that and achieve quite a high state of shamatha, calm abiding state. And also, in terms of this world, mindfulness practice, or so many practices available to bring peace and calm mind, or anti-depression, or whatever purpose it is, and helps. Yeah, but from now on, we will have a deep dive into that. That's the second scope, right? That's the nirvana. Then the third scope, the last scope, called the great scope or great capacity. What's the aim of that? So that's the ultimate awakening. This answer, this in highest yoga tantra empowerment context, highest enlightenment. So enlightenment is more than liberation, freedom. But the enlightenment entail or include the liberation of the self, liberated from samsara. Is that clear? So then I'm going to say a few words about this basic Four Noble Truths. First teaching Buddha gave at the Saranat. So once mind is settled a little bit, let's see if we can bring or look or inquire into what am I seeking? What am I looking for? I see lots of suffering in my own life, my families, and in the world every day, constantly. How can I stop that? I want to stop that. I want to eliminate all the sufferings from my life, from my family's lives, from the world. I want to see even the word suffering will disappear from the vocabulary. Then one step go deeper, so to speak. How suffering occurred? What's the mechanism? So in Buddhism, suffering arises based on the karma, karmic cause and effect. Then how karma is created is based on so-called afflicted emotions, kleshas. Then we react to that emotions, then make actions. That's how karma is created. Then how afflicted emotions arise, from where it arises. For example, strong anger, attachment, right, or judgment, all these mental states we experience. From where that's coming from? See, as if you are doing the excavation, go down deep, try to find the source of that problem. Then Buddha talks about this fundamental ignorance. So in order to cut through that fundamental ignorance, we need antidote. We need a method. So that's the territory we are going into. For the special insight, Vipashyana, we have to really investigate and look and also analyze. So there are many ways to approach to attack this fundamental ignorance. You can say three methods Buddha presented or Buddhist tradition present. One is analytical, using conceptual mind, which is very valid, actually crucial, because we already have this concept or the mind, right? Very intelligent. We use that, we make use of that. Then second one is direct observation. Investigate. We said investigation, but not using intellectual mind, just directly look. If you are looking for something, you directly look to see if there is that thing, the thing which you are looking for or not. That's the second. Third one is so-called pointing out instructions from teacher to student, then somehow opening arises. Traditionally described that the Four Noble Truths is not just four things, four truths out there, inherently existing truths out there, belief system we have to believe. Not like that. Sometimes they present it that way, like a Buddhism 101 or something. First thing we hear is the Four Noble Truths. This is what the Buddha taught, Buddha's idea, traditions. No, this is called the four facts that are perceived by the Aryas. Arya means not the ordinary person like us, like me at least, those who have a direct realization of emptiness, non-conceptually perceived as true. So four facts that are perceived by Aryas as true. So the first one, what is it? First fact is the fact of suffering, right? We think we know suffering. Yeah. Actually, there are obvious suffering and not so obvious suffering. This is not a rambling class, but at least I'm gonna say a few words about these three suffering. And the third one especially, that's the one we pay attention. First one is suffering of suffering. We have a pain. We can see psychologically if we suffer. Usually we say that we suffer, that one. Then second one is the suffering of change. We can see happiness turned into suffering quite quickly. And the flower, beautiful flower, fade away quite quickly. Or sometimes it takes a long time, but always, whatever arises has already doomed to die, like even our body. That's a change, always changing. So why suffering? Because we cling on to the eternal, we kind of superimpose this eternal or the self-grasping we call. We're gonna talk more about that, but we misperceive as an external objective reality out there. Then cling on to like a partner. We perceive or grasp at the kind of eternal goodness, ultimate goodness on that. Then it's changed always. Your mind change, partner's mind change, and the physical body change, whatever might be, always changing. That's the second. Still, we can see that one. Then third suffering is called pervasive suffering. This is the most obnoxious one, most naughty one. We don't really come to terms with it. But then it's very important that this pervasive suffering is every moment of experience is imbued or mixed with confusion, mixed with this ignorance. Every moment, as long as we have this body, this called the impure body, satyaki, we create the impure karma. So based on delusion and karma, as long as we have that, we suffer. We are doomed to suffer. We are in this uncontrolling, recurring existence. That's the first noble truth Buddha taught. He didn't end that. Otherwise, we get depressed. Then second fact, what is it? Fact of cause, right? There is a cause. What is the cause or the origin of that suffering? Then he traced. What did he say? He said marippa. Marippa doesn't mean just ignorance. Ignorance means like not intelligent person is ignorant or something like we use in colloquial. But more than that, marippa means just not knowing, unaware of reality, unaware of reality of the self and the phenomena. So that's the ignorance. But not only that, great Buddhist master Dharma Kirit added one more. Not only that, not only not knowing, not aware of the reality, but also we are completely confused. Our way of looking at things is kind of upside down. The knowing things invertedly, inverted, upside down, opposite to how things exist. So problem is this discrepancy or gap between how things appear or how I appear, how things appear, and how things exist. This mode of existence, how it appears, this mistaken appearance we call. But how it appears, we take it that is the true existence. That's how things go. But there's a big gap there. We are completely mixed up in confusion since beginningless time. That's the second fact, origin or cause is the knowing things invertedly in a wrong way, as well as not knowing reality. Then if I add one more, not knowing who and what we are really. That's the second fact. Then third state, now we can become a little bit optimistic. Third fact is possible to achieve the true stopping of suffering. Confusion or ignorance is actually not the part of our true nature. When we are born, we wear sunglasses, but if we take that sunglass off, our true nature reveals. No, so that's the third fact. That is the result or the nirvana, freedom from samsaric suffering in this case. For this, it requires the confidence or understanding. First of all, understanding the nature of mind. What is it? We never actually look and see what's the nature of mind, but we need to have that understanding, glimpse into the nature of mind. And also we need to have a conviction it's possible. So those two things we need to come to this third fact. Then how to do it? That's the fourth fact, like method, pathway. Anyway, fourth fact is the method, right? How we can reach. That is the antidote Buddha taught. Basically, most of the time, like 84,000 teaching Buddha taught is about explaining suffering so that we know, then antidote to suffering, antidote to apply to the cause of suffering. So how that would apply to what we're going to do from today and now? You guys started to get the idea. There are many levels of Four Noble Truths as well. Little bit of confusing, but actually that's why I'm talking here, clarify. Because Four Noble Truths initially we were taught in the context of the first turning wheels of Dharma, first foundational teaching, you can say, so-called Hinayanic context. Then Arhat, their goal is the freedom from suffering, samsara, right? Freedom from samsara. That's it. That's their happiness, ultimate happiness. But for us, as a Mahayana practitioner, ultimate happiness is not that. I mean, that is the personal happiness, but we are seeking for the happiness of all beings, right? That's called awakening or enlightenment. So in that case, there are two things, two levels, you can say. So often I talk about we are like a pure gold. Then there are a lot of obscurations. One way to classify the obscuration is obscuration to freedom or liberation. That's the one Arhat want to remove. And obscuration to omniscient Buddhahood. That the Mahayana practitioners like us want to seek. So those two levels. So in terms of third fact, what we want to do is we want to cut through the obscuration to liberation, obscuration to freedom from samsara, samsaric reoccurring suffering, and then obscuration to omniscient and Buddhahood. Those two. Is that clear? Those two levels. Then what's the antidote? How we can cut the both required insight or the direct perception into emptiness. We're going to talk about what's that mean, what's that technique, kind of jargons, we use. Okay, so that's the emptiness. But emptiness of the self, sometimes called selflessness, and that's one cut through the obscuration to liberation from samsara. So in order to jump off the cliff and go for freedom of oneself, we need to come to realize, perceive emptiness directly. That's the Arhat's goal, the foundational tradition, the goal, thinking about oneself, happiness. Yeah, that's the first stage, you can say. And then as a Mahayana Buddhist, we don't stop there. So what? Oneself liberated from samsara, but the rest of us, they're still swimming in the ocean of samsara. So then we move forward, so to speak, move on to more removing obscuration. Then we go to attack the obscuration to omniscient. For that, we need to realize the emptiness of the all phenomenon, everything. No, omniscient means know everything. Right? We need to come to enlightenment or awakening, complete understanding of everything. For that, we need not only realizing emptiness of every single thing, but also we need to have a driving force for us to be able to do that. What is the driving force which Arhat do not have? Bodhicitta. So that's why, in order to attain or in order to come to the Mahayana awakening, we need bodhicitta. This strength of bodhicitta deeply ingrained in bodhisattva's heart. So that's one we need. We need in order to really cut through these obscurations. Something like that. Little bit clear. Then a method. That's the one we're gonna go into. So that's what we are about to embark. How to do it. We directly look at what is this one, which we fantasize, we assume, and we project, and all those things. Usually, it's everything's automatic appearances. But this appearance is basically called mistaken appearances. Maybe the metaphor might be easy for us to understand. Chandrakirti, this great master of Madhyamika, used this metaphor of snake at night. Maybe dusk started to get very dark, but very dim. Still can see a little bit, but very dark. Let's say you are walking on the street and then just jump because there's a snake there. In your mind, appearance is a snake, really existing snake, which made you fear or whatever arises in you, right? Because you perceive that truly existing snake out there. Then slowly go there and look carefully. That was a rope, striped kind of rope coiled around. So that's a kind of metaphor. This dimness or darkness is the ignorance that we live in. So every experience, every moment experience is like that. We perceiving because of the mistaken appearances automatically appears. As if this out there, you are out there here, truly existing you, like appear, no? But we never investigated if it's true or not. We take it for granted, so to speak. And then in this coiled snake's case, fear arises, anxiety arises, negative emotion arises, try to kind of kill or something, anger arises, right? Then acts out, then create a karma, and then suffer. That's ripens in the future. So that's what we are repeating, like a coiled snake, like that. The snake exists. Actually, there's no trace of snake at all on the road. Emptiness of a snake, truly existing snake, empty of a snake, mistaken appearances. We perceive or grasp at appearances as a truly existing thing, reality. Then we get suffer, in other words. Okay, something like that in terms of mechanism of this circle, in terms of interdependence arising circle of samsara. We have been here since the beginning of time, but somehow we have a tiny window opportunity to really look into this assumption where we have been living with or based on. So that's what we're gonna do here. Also, next Damrim session happened to be the same kind of territory, more Madhyamika, we call the middle way, so which is the more analytical, conceptual mind involved. Those both are very important. It's not one or others. Actually, I want to clarify. Very important to investigate this way directly, looking at our mind, go directly. And also using our conceptual mind, then make really convince, come to term with, doesn't make sense what I have been living with, this assumption. If we do the Madhyamika, that enhance your practice of Mahamudra. Actually, in our context, Shamatha and Vipashyana is the same as the last parameter, the perfection of the concentration and the perfection of wisdom. That's the same thing. Anyway, today we're gonna go into this Vipashyana session. Does that make sense? Just take a little breathe. I might have spoke very quickly, and I just wanted to convey the rationale why we do. You might find, what? Why am I doing this? So confusing. Actually, I want you to get confused, but at least why you are doing. That's clear? Yeah, last two perfections we are dealing with here too. Same thing.
Thank you.
Just the approach is the Mahamudra approach. So we look directly at the mind. So Buddha said everything is mind. So we're gonna really attack this source of happiness and suffering called mind. You don't need to understand everything I said, because in 5 minutes of my chit chat is packed. Entire Buddhism 101 is packed in here, so condensed. So, but my point I wanted to convey is why we are looking into the nature of mind in this context. Then, of course, the base of that is the suffering, right? This idea of we don't want to suffer, and we don't want everybody to suffer. That's the one. Everybody wants happiness. Everybody don't. That always come back to this basic His Holiness message, regardless of Buddhist or not Buddhist, doesn't matter. So, in order to accomplish or in order to bring all being to happiness, we need to do this. So that's kind of dots. I want to connect that dots, so that become like a driving force to continue to keep practicing this crazy practice. Were you able to connect the dots? Yeah, we are imputing every moment. We are imputing object reality, whatever it might be. And object reality is not only phenomena to yourself, who you think, what makes you you. So all the suffering, starting from one's own personal suffering, psychological or subtle suffering, all the way to the war, fighting, and racism, everything you see in the world, global level and personal level, everything is based on this. So the really practice of, you can say that practice of emptiness or meditation on emptiness is a key to solve this dilemma we all has been facing.